bayan ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Hayang mahiming sa sikatanan, alam ng puso sa nito'y buhay. Lupang inilang, wika ng mahiming sa manlulupin. Kita kasisingin sa natatakutong sa simula, sa ganitong pamang, ang lakang tulakaw sa pagkalang ikamahal. Ang sakang matawag ko'y ay nanagigigil, ang ituwid na parang yakayan, ang kalimanigigil. Lumagang araw kang maraming pagsingkaw, ulit natin sa Pilipinas. Ang higaya na kangay malaki, ang malagay ng dahil sa'yo. Simula ko hanggang ngayon, isang naging namin. Magkaisa ang matulog, kaibigan ay marunong. Ngayon mula sa hamon ng nakaraan, bilang isang pagaling na umalang. Pinagako sa puso ang paniniwala, ang limaw para sa mga tao. Pagsamay na lumpay, buhay pawis subo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay ating nanglakamtan. Alhamdulillah, pagpalain mo sa mundo. Ang samono, lagi kang mamahalin. Walang pipigil sa damdamin, mga pangako'y tutuparin. Habang buhay kami sa'yo'y magpapatay, mananatili sa puso't isipan. Ang lahat tumutin ay nagbuwis ng buhay, nasa piling ng may kapal. Ang sanggol tagumpay, buhay pawis subo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay ating ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain mo sa mundo.
Administration Pinong Balita at ay tumatalakay sa naisupang kasalukuyan at napapanahon. Napabalika, napatingnan, napakomentaryo at balika ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang pinilingan, walang tinatampihan at walang tinatamihan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa makakaminan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, unang programa po ng 2024. Okay, ang check-in time check ay 58 minutos. Okay, pasado na po alas 6, mag-alas 7 na no, ang programa natin. Unang programa natin po sa 2024. Okay, ngayon araw ng Martes, 2 po ng Enero 2024 na. Okay, wala rin tayo binago po mga po. Kung anong 2023, wala rin tayo binago, no? Okay, tuloy-tuloy lang ang programa natin. Wala po pagbabago. Okay, pa buenas. Kaya mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, dito tayo sa Consolidated News natin. Okay, sa araw ng Martes. Okay. Dito po sa ADLSNTV Corporation. Okay, sa programa Halo-Halo Special Opinion Balita at iba pa. Kasama po serbisyo publiko, tinig ng mamamayan, and then sumbungan ng mamamayan, no? Alin ang unahin ko? Okay, ito po mga suki, yung bago po composition po ni Min Yasmin, no? Pagpagyan natin pag ay para pa buenas. Okay, programa natin po mga kababayan, no? So, umpisahan natin ng kanta ni Minya Yasmin, mga kababayan, no? Okay, subukan nga natin kung makuha ito. Ayan. Okay, dapat ma-adjust ang sound nila, no? Okay, unang balita natin po sa umagang ito, yung kaganapan po diyan sa sa bakbakan po diyan sa Gaza Strip, no? Hindi natin pwede lubayan yan kasi kung titigil tayo pabayaan natin yan, ibig sabihin po ay kakalat yan mga suki mga kababayan, no? Kaya nga tinututukan natin yan araw-araw, okay, para hindi mag-escalate po mga kababayan ng gera yan. Okay, between po ng Israeli sundalo, okay, yung tinatawag po IDF, at saka itong mga militan mga kababayan, no? Okay, sa loob po ng Gaza Strip. Okay, so okay, pambungad ng balita natin. Okay, yung kaganapan po sa ngayon, no? Okay, sabi po ng balita, okay, the Gazan people are suffering right now, as well the citizens of Israel. Okay, however, this war in this is in the making by themselves. Hindi tayo po makutos yan mga kababayan, no? Not from us, a global citizen. Kaya nga we oppose and rejected this war between the two Hamas militants and the opposite sides of the Netanyahu government, no? Kaya kinokondemn natin. Actually, we condemn to both sides of the warring faction, no? Kinokondemn ng buong daigdig. Halos lahat po mag-condemn sa kanila pero hindi po makinig mga kababayan, na. Ayan. I consider this conflict the unwanted war killed more than 20,000 innocent children, innocent civilian, and even the UN worker within the Gaza Strip and city ng Gaza mga kababayan, no? Okay, mga latest binigay ng independent news natin, more or less, no? The wounded counts more than 60,000. Nung nakarang linggo, mga 50,000 mahigit, no? Okay, mga 60,000 ang binigay po ng mga independents, kapartner natin magbigay po ng information, no? 60,000 majority Palestinian civilians. Okay, to include press practitioners and media workers. On record, umabot na po 103 killed, kung walang dagdag, in line of duties covering this conflict, no? Wala po pinipili po ang pamahalaan po ng Israeli government mga suki, no? Okay? Kasi indiscriminate. Ang bombing po ay indiscriminate bombing mga kababayan, no? Nakikita naman natin sa mga footage po pinapalabas. Okay, from the Israeli side, according to the data, after October 7 surprise attack, 1,000 kagad po ang nadali. 1,000 Israelis killed, including innocent children and civilian. Ayon po sa balita ito, no? Okay, the 45 hostages, however, in the pursuing hostage negotiation, kasama po ang 245 hostage ba yun o 250? However, pursuing hostage negotiation brokered by the third-party negotiator, their hostages released you're reunited with their families, no? But there are hostages are still in the hands of the captors or the Hamas militants, mga kababayan, no? Okay. Okay, casualties from the IDF released by the Independent News. Okay. And counter part of the latest account. Okay. Ay 501 na po ang KIA in action, no? Okay, ayon sa data nila. Nakuha kung totoo itong balita ito, kinuha lang natin po sa mga independent news. Okay, mag-cover dyan po sa Gaza Strip, mga kababayan, no? Okay, yung mga matapang po mag-cover po dyan sa bansa yan. Okay, sa lugar na yan, no? Ang sugatan, unaccounted, wala po data release sila. Okay, on hindi po sila nag-release ng wounded in action, no? Okay, so ito ay mga IDF. And then nadagdagan nung Sabado. Okay, sabi rito ay meron po ay patay. Okay, 20 plus 14 po mga kababayan diyan po sa gera na yan. Okay, kung nakikita mo sa footage, yung pinalabas natin mga kababayan, talagang hindi miss, no? Yung mag-advance po ng militant baril. Ginamit po pagpuntirya po sa mga tangke, okay, sa mga sundalo ng Israel. Hindi po mag-miss mga kababayan. Gagamitin sa gabi, gagamitin sa araw, wala pong miss, no? Okay, pag pinuntirya po ng mga militant sa tangke, wasak talaga mga suki, no? So kitang-kita mo. So doon sa ground force po, wala po. Kawawa po ang mga IDF. Pag i-analyze mo mabuti po ang bakbakan na yan, kawawa po pag ground to ground, man to man, gera mga suki, no? Wala silang magawa. Okay, talagang kung hindi sila alis diyan maubos sila mga suki pag ground to ground, pag ground battle po ang gera nila, no? Okay. Kitang-kita po sa sa mga footage ng TV, hindi ko po magsinungaling ang TV. Okay, kung pinupunteriya po ang mga tangke, mga sundalo po talagang hindi po makaligtas, no? Okay, parang talagang mga magagaling po sharpshooter itong mga Hamas militant, no? So, ang ginawa po ng Hamas ngayon, mag-form sila ng division, no? Maraming division. Okay, pag doon sa area na yon, yon po ang babanat. Okay, pupunta doon sa area na yon yung mga Israeli forces, yung tinatawag ng IDF, Internal Defense Forces, meron po sa salubong sa kanila mga kabayan, no? Mga kabayan, may ambush, okay, sa salubong sa kanila, no? Kaya sa tingin ko, pag patuloy po ang bakbakan sa ground battle o sa field, wala po sa magawa mga kababayan, no? Walang magawa ang mga sundalo po ng Israeli mga kababayan, no? So ang ginawa nila ngayon, okay, nag-withdraw po ng 5 division po diyan po mismo sa area ng Gaza kasi hindi po nila matiis po ang casualty. Okay, hindi po matiis ang casualty. Mas dadami po ang casualty kung nariyan sila. Okay, nariyan sila ay makipagbakbakan mga kababayan. So umatras sila. Ang 5 division po ng sundalo po ng Israeli. Okay, umatras po, balik sa kanila mga kababayan, balik doon sa loob ng Israel mga kababayan. No? Yan po ang mga nakukuha natin po sa binigay sa atin ng mga feed. Okay, galing po sa kanila mga kababayan. No? Okay, matindi. Matindi ito ang bakbakan. No? Ayan, so paano ka hindi madali? Okay, pag release po ng mga anti-tank launcher, talagang durog po yung mga tangke mga kababayan. No? Okay, so matras, hindi po matiis po ng sundalo po ng Israeli forces mga kababayan. No? So saan sila lilipat ngayon? Diyan po lumipat naman sa Rafah. Okay, may palabas ngayon. Lumipat naman po sa Rafah yung border po ng border po ng Egypt. Okay, Egypt po at saka itong Gaza mga suki mga kababayan, no? Diyan po naman ang binabantayan po ng mga IDF. Kasi pag sa ground, okay, hindi po kaya nila, okay, labanan po ng mga division po ng mga militan mga kababayan, no? So yan po ang mga latest, okay, nangyayari po sa bakbakan yan mga kababayan. Okay, talagang kitang-kita mo sa mga footage na talagang maraming casualty ang mga IDF po. So hindi lang sinasabi nila kasi talagang control nila ang balita mga. Pero pag nakita mo, okay, sa mga footage, hindi mo ma-deny po mga kababayan na talagang okay, tumama po yung mga anti-tank launcher nila, yung mga sharpshooter pag tira po sa mga military ng Israel, talagang puntirya po sa ulo, okay, kung saan-saan po tumama po mga kababayan ang baril po ng mga militan. So yan po ang totoong balita. Okay, makikita natin po sa mga footage, okay, ng mga galing po sa mga independent magbabalita dyan, no? So hindi mo ma-deny ang picture, inulit ko, ganon po ang nangyari po dyan sa bakbakan po dyan, kasalukuyan. Okay, so medyo maglal ngayon. Okay, inaamin po natin pag mga bombing galing po sa air power, okay, sa Himpapawid, talagang wala po match ang mga Palestinian mga kababayan, no? Mga Palestinian militan. Yung maka-damage sa kanila itong tinatawag nila Al-Qassam Brigades, no? So maraming division, okay, establish nila pagdepensa po sa Palestinian territory, no? Okay, so ang sabi po ng war cabinet po ng Israeli, okay, kasi hindi po madalian ng inamin na nila, okay, hindi po kaya ay madalian po pagpulbos, okay, sa mga Hamas, no? Okay, sa mga Hamas at saka Al-Qassam. Okay, pag gera sa kanila, hindi po kaya basta-basta mga kababayan, no? Okay, nakita natin talagang maraming civilian namatay, pero pagdating sa battleground, okay, lumalaban po ang mga militan, mga suki, no? Okay, so yan po ang independent ay nakita natin po, independent na mag-release po ng mga footage po mga kababayan, no? Okay, so kung bibilangin mo, 501, okay, plus 20, 521, plus 14, na marami-rami na rin po ang okay, IDF po na dali po soldiers, okay, na nakikita natin, no? Okay, ayan, KIA on Saturday and Sunday report, no? And continue piling, okay, of body bags in the battlefield of a dangerous Gaza Strip, mga kababayan, no? So yan po ang news, Okay, pangunahin balita po ay base po sa mga nakikita, dinrelease po ng mga independent news, mga kababan, mga suki, no? Okay, sa mga pro sa kanila, wala kang makuha na balita. Okay, pro sa, okay, mag-release po ng mga news galing po sa kampi po ng Israeli government, wala kang makuha. Kukuha ka ng balita po ay sa independent news, no? Okay, yung magbalita po ng totoo. Pero yung sa kakampi nila, okay, wala kang makuha balita. Yan lang ang masasabi ko, okay, sa balita po sa umagang ito, mga kababayan, no? Okay, talaga. Okay. Wala kang makuha na balita kung pro mga magbabalita po sa magbabalita po sa kampi sa kanila, mga kababayan, no? Pero ang kukuha ka sa mga independent news, okay, mga source na independent, sigurado may balita ka, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Okay. Pasensya na kayo sa sound, no? At least hindi po matigil ang news natin. Ayan.
Ang programa ng station ng balita at iba pa ay nakalakay sa may subang kasalukuyan at nakapanahon. Politika, opinion, komentaryo at balita ang programa ay para sa lahat. Walang kinikilingan, walang tinakampihan, at walang tinapamigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa kapakaminan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, kukuha tayo ng balita kay Ambassador Hussam Zomlot, okay, ng Palestinian Authority, nakabase po sa UK. Okay, kung ano po ang latest release niya ng balita ito, no? Okay, matapang ito ng isang Palestino, diplomats po diyan, nakabase po sa UK. Pakinggan natin ang kanyang komentaryo, no? Marinig ba nyo, mahina? No? Hindi ko kasalanan yun, mga kababayan. Ayan, hindi nyo marinig ng mabuti. Kahit kunti, dapat ay marinig. Si Hussam Somlot, no? Ambassador Hussam Somlot. Ibig sabihin po, nag-a-appeal siya sa United Nations na. Okay. So yun po ang appeal niya sa US, sa UN Security Council na huwag po magpadala po ng mga kagamitan po nakakamatay diyan po sa mga civilian. Okay, mga innocent civilian po diyan po sa Palestine, no? Iyon po ang comment niya, no, na hindi magpadala po ng itong mga bomba, mga small unit po ng firearm, okay, sa UN at saka Security Council, no? Okay, at saka itong US o kaya lahat ng supporter po ng Israel, mga kababayan, no? So dapat ay matigil po ang pagpadala po ng nakakamatay. Okay? Nakakamatay po ng mga nakakapinsala po, okay, ng armament. Diyan po sa kababayan, sa mga Palestinian, mga kababayan, no? Okay, so yon po ang appeal po ni Hussam Somlot, no? Kung maniwala tayo sa mga tinatawag po demokrasya. Okay. Okay, so yon po ang isang appeal ng ambassador yan, Hussam Somlot, mga kababayan, no? Okay, na itigil na po pagpadala ng mga bomba galing po sa US, galing po kung saan-saan, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Para matigil po ang gera po yan, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Can you imagine kung nakikita nyo sa paghulog ng bomba po tumama sa mga building, ay durog po, mga suki, no? Durog ang building. Kaya nga ang mga civilian po maraming namatay diyan, no? Okay, sa bakbakan yan. Okay, kung matuloy po ang ceasefire, no? Okay, meron silang recovery, ay talagang dapat pagandaan nila, no? Okay, na hindi sila mamatay, mga suki pagdating may mga gera ganyan, no? Ayan, sorry po. Ayan. Okay, babalik po tayo. Sandali lang. Okay, hanap tayo kasunod ng balita, no?
Ang administration ng balita at iba ay tumatalakay sa may subang kasalukuyan at napapanahon. Mapapalika, mapapinong, mapakomentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang pinigilan, walang kinakampihan, at walang pinapanigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa makakaminan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, sandali lang. Okay, pasensya kayo, no? dapat magpapalit tayo ng gamit. Okay, ito po. Latest po from galing po sa gera yan, no? Ayan.
Deadliest moments of the U.S. war in Iraq and the U.S. battle against ISIS in Raqqa, Syria. Now most of the 2.3 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have been displaced, food is in limited supply, and most hospitals have been destroyed. Israel says it's responding to the attack of Hamas on Israel in October. It killed hundreds of Israeli soldiers and civilians and trying to make sure that Hamas can't wage an attack like that ever again. But is it a strategy which has the backing of a patron superpower, the United States, really working? And what happens when the fighting ends and the Palestinians and Israelis have to find a way to live together as neighbors all over again? Today we're talking with David Trump, former speechwriter and assistant to President George W. Bush, currently a writer at The Atlantic magazine, and most recently the author of Trumpocalypse, Restoring American Democracy. David, thank you so much for joining us today. Look, this is a painful and horrible subject, which we have all the eyeballs in the world are watching. October 7th, precipitated a response from Israel that brought the Israeli left and right together in response to basically eradicate Hamas. And I was caught by a tweet thread that you tweeted out that began to look at beyond the horror. What do we do when the conflict ends and there is the day after? Tell us what you think are the important features of the day after we need to think about.
I start with this in this matter as a strong supporter of Israel and a strong supporter of the U.S.-Israeli relationship. Like many American Jews, I have family on the front lines, and one of my relatives, the second cousin, is in captivity as you and I speak. He is a prisoner of Hamas and probably has been exposed to considerable abuse. So we all have a lot of heart in this story. But we also need our heads because every war must end. Major combat operations in Gaza will end. I expect and I hope they will end with tremendous damage to the command structure of Hamas. That will, as you say, leave behind millions of people and mountains of blood. How do those people survive? How do they eat? What happens next? And how do you come up with some kind of security regimen to make sure that peace is restored and that people feel like they're alive? So there have been a number of ideas floated, and that's where you and I began our conversation. Could Israel reoccupy Gaza? That seems utterly unworkable. Will an international force of some kind arrive on Gaza? I don't think we're going to find many Europeans willing to do that because of the risk of being exposed to terrorist attack from whatever remains of Hamas or other kinds of successive groups. Could a confederation of Arab governments do it? Well, you know better than I how little cooperation there is between Arab governments, how much I disagree. Could the United Nations step in? Well, they have utterly discredited themselves. They have acted as fronts for Hamas through their refugee organization. There's only one security keeper you can imagine having legitimacy and success, and that is some kind of revived Palestinian authority. If the world has to find a way to revive and improve Palestinian authority to re-enter Gaza and assume the responsibility of government.
Now, the Palestinian Authority was set up as a temporary transitional authority to move towards a two-state solution. It came as a result of the Oslo Accords. There are others like Salam Fayyad, whom I've interviewed recently, who think that PA has lost its legitimacy, lost its role because of a failure to deliver, and thus you need to even go back to the precursor to that, the PLO, and find a new way to get legitimacy. I find your suggestion really interesting, because are you saying that you can restore the Palestinian Authority and detach it from a two-state horizon?
I think sometimes I worry in the Middle East a lot about solutionism. That you have a vision of a solution and you then judge yourself by whether you're moving toward that solution when you have an immediate problem. I'm looking at the present now.
And just to our audience, you're worried about housing, water systems, the even most basic necessities, which you lay out in pretty graphic detail in your tweets about really the horrors ahead.
Yes. There have, after previous rounds of violence between Israel and Hamas, 2014 being the most recent big one, there's been a lot of international investment to rebuild Gaza. I think people, and especially the friends of the Palestinians, need to be aware that international aid is not likely to be forthcoming in the way it was before.
Because it went into tunnel.
It went into tunnel. So explain to a German taxpayer, explain to an American taxpayer, explain even to people in the Persian Gulf, how do you justify writing checks for hundreds of millions of dollars, given the history of past abuse? So there will be emergency aid, humanitarian aid, but it will be much more modest. And so there are solutions that are going to have to come from Gaza. There also are going to have to be, and I understand you talked to John Bolton about this, there's going to have to be some kind of way that people in the Gaza Strip can exit to go find work and send remittances home. And one of the roles that the Persian Gulf governments can have is that they can offer work permits to people willing to try their hand so they can earn a living, because the aid is not going to flow the way it used to be.
Do you see an end of work permits for Palestinians in Israel? Because a lot of the transfer payments and the economic activity of both the West Bank and Gaza was tied to the Israeli economy. And it really begs the question, will Israel play a role in rebuilding Gaza?
Look, someday this has to be an economic deal. Someday it has to be possible to get on a train in Cairo, get off the train in Damascus with a stop in Jerusalem in between. And this area is too small for so many borders and so much entanglement. I don't think anytime soon we'll realize Gaza is Israel. And that part has to be forfeited. Because even though the number of people who did the violence is finite, they do seem to have had a lot of information from people who were trusted. So the trust will be hard to restore. Maybe you can imagine some Gazans, if they check out finding work permits in the West Bank, but don't look for that border between Gaza and Israel to be reopened anytime soon. They're going to have to find work somewhere else because the aid isn't going to flow the way it must be.
Where can they go?
There are going to be tremendous labor shortages in the Gulf states. Some will be able to go to Egypt. And as I said, we're talking here about remittance. We're not talking about necessarily relocating whole families. Many of the receiving governments will be reluctant. But if you say, look, here's a group of 100 working age men who are looking for a 24-month work permit so they can earn a living and send money home to their families, I hope the region, and they speak their language, I hope the region will be open to all of that. But what the place is going to look like, it's not, people are not going to have homes to go back to. Many people will not have homes to go back to. And the water systems are damaged, and the electricity grids are broken. And it will take a long time to restore them, and the resources for that will be coming from inside Gaza, not so much from the outside world.
As you look at things now, I've interviewed a lot of friends of Israel on this show, a lot of military experts, General Petraeus, others who've said Hamas, what's not understood is Hamas is not a body of individuals and people. It's an ideology, and the notion that it can be eradicated through this activity is mistaken. We even had the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, saying Israel risks strategic defeat, and of course it is going down. So my question to you, and I know it's complicated, is Israel doing the wrong thing at this moment to achieve its objectives of undermining Hamas between the
I'm not a military expert of any kind. I have no idea. What I would also say is maybe the wrong question, because there are things that societies are going to do that are inevitable. When Hamas launched the October 7th attacks in such an atrocious way, it did so no democratic society could fail to respond in a correspondingly large way. It was inevitable that Israel would respond in this way. It was intended. And it just isn't. That's how democracies react when people commit such heinous atrocities against so many of their citizens, especially targeting women and children the way that Hamas did. What will happen, though, when the major combat operations come to an end, as they soon will, politics in Israel will begin to resume. And there will that look like? What that will look like is demands in the street for accountability from that depart. Questions of the security establishment.
So there will be a reckoning.
There will be a reckoning, and there are going to be all kinds of other interesting shifts. Some people are going to be one of the major things that happened inside Israel during this conflict was a surge of support for the state from Palestinian Israelis, Arab Israelis. You saw these polls that showed a rise in identification with the state. Some will say that was driven by fear more than loyalty. But there has certainly been no reaction within Israel of any kind of security threats from Palestinian Arabs of Israeli passports. I know a lot of Israelis, Jews, and Arabs who say, what did they get from that? Where were the demonstrations of appreciation for loyalty to the state? That's going to be a major divide. Meanwhile, there were all kinds of settlers. So when Israel's Jewish settlers in the West Bank, when Israel's Arab League intensified conflict with their Arab neighbors as if to open up yet one more front at exactly the time when that front was least needed. So there will be disputes.
I mean, a lot of people are very, very worried about the West Bank right now, as an escalation about settler provocations there. You and I have both been in recent meetings where I think some government officials feel confident that is going to somehow be controlled and reeled in by the Israeli government. Do you have that confidence? Because that's one area where I worry, what are the blind spots we're not seeing right now? If that confrontation were to hit the West Bank, that would be really disturbing escalation.
I don't think there's a prediction. So what does politics look like? So one of the issues in politics will be what happens to Netanyahu. One of the issues in politics will be who is to blame for the security and intelligence failure. And another issue in politics will be those who say, we owe something to the Israeli Arabs, and those who say, no, we owe protection to the settlers. And those two groups within Israeli society will argue against it.
Okay, break muna natin para naman may contribution po ang ating himpilan mga kababayan, no? Ayan.
Administration ng balita at iba pa ay tumatalakay sa may subang kasalukuyan at napapanahon. Politika, opinyon, komentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang kinikilingan, walang tinakampihan at walang tinapamitan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa makakamilan at trabaho lamang.
Okay. Sige lang. O, ipapatuloy natin po itong analysis process mo ng tungkol dito po sa problema ito, no?
And I think there's going to be a reckoning as well with the role of the
kayo na po magintindi, no? Kayo magintindi. Tumulong kayo magintindi sa sinasabi niya.
Israel's security needs after this war will be great because Israel will have to watch not only the North, where it always watches, not only Gaza. It will have to have an eye to other kinds of regional threats. The idea that there's this large group of people who exempt themselves from the normal responsibilities of citizenship because of their cultural religiosity, that's going to be questioned. You're going to have a lot of power inside Israel. I have no idea how it will work itself out. But the idea that there is an Israel, I mean, Israel has been united in its reaction against Hamas. There's other questions.
Okay, magbasa tayo ng oras. 40 minutos mo, pasado na alas 7, no? Okay. Sige, tapusin lang natin itong video ito mga kababayan. Yung audio ito, no? Ayan.
There will be important debate. And one of the things that people watch this program, one of the things that they need to bear in mind is their own agency. You know, the signals that Israel gets from its neighbors, the signals that Israel gets from the region, will also have an important effect. If we move toward resumption of normalization with Persian Gulf countries, especially Saudi Arabia, that opens more space for a less fearful Israel to behave in a way that empower the most generous elements in Israeli society. If Israelis feel more fearful, you empower the least generous elements in Israeli society.
You don't call for a two-state solution in that case, which some are saying may be dead, some are saying is the only option. But as you think about what you just said about taking pressure off Israel, decreasing the toxicity of the moment, looking at a Saudi normalization, do you see an opportunity?
again, I want to warn against solutionism. I just think we need to take one step at a time. And I think all of those folks that were felt so intensely in the 1990s, they are so much farther away than they were. But there are things that you can do today. And I would emphasize, as I did in that tweet, dignity for Arab citizens of Israel, respect, equality, and having a vision of at least there has to be someday economic integration. From the river to the sea, economic integration. And beyond the river to the sea, economic integration. As for the Saudis, the Biden administration may be kidding itself on the speed at which this is happening. Because the Saudis, I think, have indicated they want to play in American politics. They want to help Republicans. They want to help Donald Trump. They want to hurt Joe Biden. I find it hard to imagine that they would hand such a major diplomatic victory to President Biden in 2024. Perhaps if President Biden wins re-election and they have to deal with it in 2025, it will happen then. I would, October 7th, no October 7th, I would not have expected a breakthrough in the coming year. But the Saudis want it for their own purposes. The whole region has to be demilitarized, has to be normalized. And so long as there's animosity toward Israel, this will never be a normal region of the world. And the economic prospects in the Saudis leadership imagine, they envision economic development, social normalization within an authoritarian political context. Well, it's hard to do that. It's hard to maintain the authoritarian politics and the normal economy at a time of intense competition with your neighbors. In order to make that formula work, it's a tough formula, you need peace.
How would Donald Trump have managed this differently, do you believe, than Joe Biden? Joe Biden is suffering in the polls in part because of antipathy among young Democrats about how he's dealing with Israel-Palestine right now, and what they see as being Joe Biden as being more pro-Israel than they're comfortable with. Would it be ironic that Joe Biden loses the election because of that loss of support for Donald Trump over this crisis?
Donald, I don't believe that really will happen. And I think when you look more closely at this poll, you see Biden also confronts people to his right, Democrats to his right, who say he has not done enough. And the people who are most angry at Biden about his support for Israel are those who are the least likely to vote. One of the questions that they asked these young people is, did you vote in 2020? And among those who said no, they did not vote in 2020, they are much more likely to be on the pro-Palestinian side than among those who did. So if you're a professional politician, if you don't vote, I'm interested in your opinion as a fellow citizen, but
You don't matter.
you don't matter. The people who vote, they know. How would Donald Trump? It's unpredictable. I mean, Trump responds to very personal economic necessities. The Saudis have enriched his family, and since he left office, they've enriched his family even more. So I think his first call would be to them. He is very interested in some of the most reactionary elements in Israeli society. He would listen to them. But because no one should ever feel secure about any possible something, it's very possible that Donald Trump would have done something radically unthinkable. And with Biden, I've spoken to diplomats from the region, and they have said they miss Trump because with Trump, if you paid the right people, you could have a highway to the very innermost circle, and then the president you could prevail on him, and if he got him the right way, he might. Whereas with the Biden people, there's always this process, there's this bureaucracy, they're very concerned with being consistent. It's very difficult to work with. But you know what? Predictability is good.
And Biden has that.
Biden is the most predictable politician probably in the United States, if not the world.
Well, let me ask you about one of the things we need is some states, and maybe this is cop out with some of the hardcore necessities you're talking about the day after Gaza. Some states are talking about recognizing Palestinian statehood. You've got Obama officials beginning to write New York Times op-ed saying we need to recognize Palestine as a state. Does that help get us anywhere?
No, it just that. I mean, think of yourself living on a street in Gaza. You've lost whatever home you had. There's no potable water. You're drinking water that's maybe going to make your kids sick. There's electricity unevenly fluctuating. You're terrorized by these gunmen. There are bombs going off. And the idea that somebody you've never met gets to drive you in a big car with a flag on it. You need water. You need drinking water, and you need it right now. You need the power to be on. You need the bombs to stop going off. You need the gunmen to be sent away. And then you need to have some hope that the working age men in your family can earn some kind of living and get some kind of money to put a roof back over your head.
There are ruminations that Iran may have a breakout year next year, that it may, in fact, become a fully fledged 10th major nuclear power in the world, violating non-proliferation agreements, etc. But it will be there, it will be out there. As you look back at that, and part